investigation on the history of our school, which is now Ellicott Mills Middle School. My name is Kim Martin, this is Ashley Walton, Christina Geringer, and Jennifer LaForteza. We're going to be interviewing Ms. White. Was the school a high school or a middle school when you graduated?
This was a 4-year high school. Actually, when I started, I finished the sophomore, the junior, and the senior level here. The first or freshman year, I was down in Ellicott City at the old school, the old Greystone School on College Avenue. And the bus brought us up here eventually.
What year did you graduate?
1942, and I happened to be in the class that had the last yearbook because there was a really big war. You may have studied in some of your history, WW2, World War II. And those folks that came after me, those classes, did not have a yearbook until the war was over, I understand. Would you like, would you like to see what the school looked like when it was first opened? Okay. This is from my yearbook. Hello. Okay. You may have noticed on the front facade of the school that the bricks are a little different in the middle. There was an opening, a stairway. That was the formal entrance of the school. So next time you walk around the school, you can see what the shape of it originally.
How long has Ellicott City Middle been open?
Well, it wasn't a middle school. It was a complete high school, a 4-year high school. So it actually opened in 1940, because I graduated in 42, so that would have been 40, 41, and 42, and I did 3 years here. So that would be 40.
Who was the principal at Ellicott City High School?
Mr. John E. Yingling, a gentleman I had the pleasure of meeting again 2 years ago at my 50th reunion. So that's pretty remarkable. He's 90-something.
How many teachers did you have when you graduated?
Oh, golly. Well, I have to count right quick. 12. You want me to tell you what they were? Well, they were history, Miss Routson, English, Miss Dow. The principal, Mr. Yingling, taught history. Dorothy Bauer taught home economics. Marion Ferguson taught Latin and French. Eleanor Dries taught, and she's still living too, taught music. And Betty Lang was my physical education teacher. And they still live in Howard County. I saw them at my reunion. Clarence Sullivan, I did not have him. I was an academic student, but he taught the commercial subjects. Betty Hill taught art, I believe. Mr. Nichols was in the shop, so I didn't see him. Only the boys got to take shop then. Charlotte Russell taught physics. And, oh gee, I think Mr. Oh gosh, I can't read his name and I've forgotten. But I know his face. Taught phys ed, taught the boys phys ed. Everything was separate then.
How many teachers were there in the whole school?
I just told you, 12. That included the principal.
Okay. How has Ellicott City Middle School changed since you went there?
April Roberts for dismissal, please.
You can erase
Ask
this.
it again.
How has Ellicott City Middle School changed since you went there?
Well, it was just a four-year high school. There wasn't any middle school in the system then. I went 7 grades in Ellicott City Elementary School. Well, there were 7 grades. Actually, I lived in the city and came out here into Howard County in the 5th grade. And then there were 4 years high school. So I only went to school 11 years before I entered college.
What was it like when you went to Ellicott City High School?
Well, in 1941, the year before I graduated, this big war started. And so everything had a different flavor to it than it does now. I have to say that I was part of a class that had 28 boys and I think 28 girls rather, and 8 boys. So you can see the ratio wasn't very good. But one of the fun things was, at lunchtime we got to dance to the record player after we ate, which was, you know, lots of fun.
How many students were in most of your classes?
Well, 30. See, we did not separate. We stayed together as a class and went to the different teachers, but there were about, 30, 35.
About how many students were in the whole school?
I think it was close to 300, and that's 4 years of high school. Can I ask a question? How many do you have now?
500.
500? Okay. But that's only
The 3
6,
grades.
7, and 8. Yes. Okay.
Did anything exciting happen at Ellicott City High School?
Well, one of the most exciting things was the musical productions. We have some pictures in here, and I don't know if you can see all of them, but because they're very small. I don't know, does any of this show up at all? I always got the old lady parts with the gray hair. I had my hair powdered. I was the matron. But anyway, we had lots of fun with that, and we did an operetta every year. Sports. Oh, sports, yeah. Basketball. Girls basketball and boys basketball. I played varsity. I wasn't as good as a lot of them, but anyway. But volleyball played 9 people on a team. That's a lot of people. I still play volleyball, but there's not that many on the floor at one time. But we had 9 players on a side. And field ball out there.
How was your prom when you graduated?
Oh gosh. I think I had 3-day measles, but I tried to hide it. And it was going through the class, we all wore white face powder.
What classes were offered?
Well, as I say, I took Latin, 2 years of Latin and 2 years of French, and math, and history, a lot of American history. And home ec was a big deal. We used to help prepare the lunches in the home ec program. And I can remember those tuna fish sandwiches now.
What kinds of books did you use?
Well, same old textbooks. I've since learned that some of that information in those books was not really true. I'm working with Native American children now, and I know a lot of that information I was fed in history class was not true. It's slanted. And English, Shakespeare, tremendous field trip. We all went to something that doesn't exist anymore. You may have seen its pictures in the archive somewhere. Ford's Theater downtown. Saw Macbeth, Maurice Evans, and oh gosh, memory comes and goes. And another Shakespearean actress.
How many periods were in a day?
I think there were about maybe 5 or 6. We didn't have music every day, and we didn't have art every day.
About how long were your classes?
I think they were about an hour. Don't hold me to that. Sometimes it seemed like a long time.
How long was your day? What time did it start and end?
I guess it started at 9 o'clock and went to about 3. I came to school on a bus. It was a long ride. I know sometimes I waited for the bus if it was a snowy day and the bus never came, but there was no notification by radio such as we have now. So, you know, I'd wait for 2 hours and then I'd give up and go back home. I lived on a farm not too far from here that's now under Centennial Lake.
I just wanted her to stop and...
Layout of the school.
Oh, golly. Well, it was probably about 1/3 the size it is now, because we didn't have as many students. The gym had the stage. Now, you still have the stage. See, I haven't visited every area to know exactly what has been moved around, but I know you've made a lot of additions. We didn't have a big, media. We just had a small library. And that was on the 2nd floor, as I can remember that. Everything is just big, so big now, but that's par for the course, I guess.
Okay, did you have any sports teams?
Yes, as I mentioned, volleyball and basketball that I played on, and field ball. Now, I don't know if that's a game you play now. It was just sort of an adapted soccer, I guess. That was played outside. And badminton. We used to play competitions with other local high schools. I remember going to Elkridge and Sykesville and different high schools to compete.
What were your school colors?
Aha! Well, you can see from the yearbook, or part of it, red and gold. I know, that's a good.
What was your school mascot?
Oh gosh, I have to look that up. I can give you we didn't have a mascot, but we had a flower, which was the marigold, and colors were red and gold. Would you like to know our class motto? Not at the top, but climbing.
What kinds of foods were served at lunch?
Well, I think I told you the home ec class made sloppy tuna fish sandwiches, and sometimes we'd sneak a little with the heel before it. We had good sauerkraut, sauerkraut and pork and mashed potatoes. I think Mrs. Wallenhorst was the lady in the kitchen who did the majority of the cooking. Real nice lady.
Like I asked you before, if anything exciting happened, and how did you feel when the event occurred?
Well, if anything exciting happened, well, I guess the most exciting thing was World War II was declared December 7th,
How did you feel?
1941. Well, that was kind of wild. I can remember being on with a group of people that would go to one farm and use binoculars, field glasses, and be what they called spotters, plane spotters. And you would scan the skies maybe for an hour period, and then somebody would come and relieve you to see what the aircraft in the air were. Of course, we couldn't tell if they were good or bad, but we just had to write down what we saw and what we heard. So, no enemy plane got to Howard County then, though. But that was the mood of the time.
How much did lunch cost?
Oh, I think 25 cents maybe. Ice cream was a nickel.
Did you ever have any problems with discipline?
Well, I remember when I was a freshman, and we were still in the old school on College Avenue, we'd been not looking at, but reading the news. No TVs then, only radios and newspapers. And all of a sudden, we thought we'd try, my class thought they'd try a sit-down strike. That was big in the news. I think the coal unions were doing that. And so we refused to change classes after lunch. And we all ended up in the principal's office. I was not as aggressive then as I've learned to be later on. But I followed the group, you know. And it all worked out.
Can you describe what a typical classroom looked like?
Well, there were lots of radiators, and they've been removed, I'm sure, because it was hot water heat back then. They were bright, same shades, pull-down shades. The floors were wood. That's probably changed.
Today the basement is an art room. What was the basement when you were here?
Basically just utilities. I think the heating system.
Can you tell me anything else about how the interior has changed?
Well, there certainly are a lot more corridors going every which way. It's easier to get lost.
How has the outside of the building changed?
Well, the original entrance is no longer there. Where I mentioned, if you go around to the front of the school, and you'll notice that the bricks are different. They're old. The old outline is there where the steps used to be up into the main entrance of the school, but I don't know when that was removed. If the principal still can handle any questions, he might know, and I may be able to put you on to some other people that can give you additional information from other classes.
Is there any other interesting information about the history that you could share with us?
Golly. I remember making one field trip to Ellicott City to the post office, which was brand new. The stone building on Main Street, and that was kind of an event. And then we went, the little theater on the corner there, I don't know what it's called now, they had some plays there, I think. Little, what do you call that, on the corner of Columbia Pike?
Same thing.
The old 29.
Triangle.
Well, it used to be a movie theater. It used to be the Earl. And we went and saw, I think, A Tale of Two Cities there. That was another field trip.
I have a question. We have an assistant principal here. When you went here, did they have an assistant principal?
No. The principal, a lot of the teachers helped out with the extra duties, but there weren't as many extra duties as I'm sure there are now. You're welcome.
Like when you look out the window.
Well, I had a dear friend who didn't come to high school here. She went on to a private school, but her family's farm was just across the road, and it was called Wheatfields. And I understand there's a housing development over there now called wheat fields. So that was all dairy cows and chickens and open fields where they grew the crops to feed the animals. And not very many separate houses.
God, my mind is going. We've talked about the layout of the building, but what part of this building was actually the high school? The original, was it the part that's back here with the media center, or was it up front?
Well, it
Wait,
would be right.
Wait, let me ask, which one of you wants to ask that question? Okay.
Ready? Go.
Go.
What was just behind the front, the facade that I mentioned that has been changed, there were, I think, just classrooms on either side of one central hall that ran parallel with what was Montgomery Road. Now you call it 103, right? And then the second floor, same deal. So that it did not have all the little ins and outs and nooks and crannies you have now. But somehow we managed.
What changed the years since you've been here?
Well, this school originally seemed like it was out in the middle of nowhere. As I said, there were just many farms located in this area. Actually, the last 6 months of my senior year, my family had moved to Catonsville, and I commuted by streetcar, and the streetcar went up over the bridge from Baltimore County into Howard County, and then I would pick up the school bus to get up to this school. But that, they used to call it the Seven Hills area. You know, the Seven Hills of Ellicott City modeled after the Seven Hills of Rome. And, but I wanted to finish with my senior class. And I'd pay a little extra because it was a different county.
One of you might want to ask, what were the popular dresses, styles, music?
Okay.
Okay.
Who wants to ask that question? Okay.
Okay. Ready? Go.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, hold on. I stopped it.
She stopped it. One of you might want to ask about the music and.
Music was popular in the
Big bands. There was a guy that graduated a couple of years before I did who had, I think, about a 7-piece orchestra, and he played for the proms. But other than that, it was record, it was Glenn Miller, it was Artie Shaw, Benny Goodman, Sammy Kaye, all the big band sounds.
Do any people that you know of go off to the war?
Yes, at my recent 50th reunion, I learned that one girl who was a nurse on Corregidor, which was an island in the South Pacific, died during the service when she was serving there in 1942. Robert Lee Gerwig.
Michelle Reynolds and Christy.
People that you know of go off to the war?
Right. Well, I found out at my 50th reunion that Jean Cahill, who was a nurse, I think she was a Navy nurse, died on the island of Corregidor in the South Pacific during World War II, 1942. That right after we got out. We lost 2 of the boys. One in Belgium, Robert Gerwig, and Emerson Ridgely in Germany, one in 44 and one in 45. So that was part of the sad story of it.
Or a bomb shelter in the school?
No, not at the time. I think that may have come later. we did not have any air raid drill exercises that I
Anyone
would.
famous that ever graduated in your class?
Well, we were all things. I'm looking back at the yearbook, and it lists the Board of Education of Howard County at that time. And there's only one who was the county superintendent. His name was Herbert C. Brown, and Catherine Brown graduated the year after I did. That was one connection. Gee, this is a hard one. In my class, one of the surviving boys had just retired from flying United Airlines. It was a wartime. If you count war casualties, I certainly think the three that I've talked about earlier would be of note.
Dropouts in your class?
Yeah, dropouts were different back in those days. Sometimes boys, particularly boys, dropped out to help on the family farm. Some dropped out, maybe they were a little advanced in age anyway, and joined the service. But one dropout, who used to fly his airplane around here, which was really, he was kind of ahead of his time, went down to Florida and started building malls and made millions of dollars. So, you don't always have to have degrees to be a success.
Well, we'd like to say thank you, Jennifer, Christina, Ashley, and Kim, and we hope that all your information will help us in the investigation.
It's been lots of fun, and thank you for asking me.
Thank you.